Dr. Nasir Sen is here, and today's lecture is about Sir Syed Ahmad Khan and his educational and political services that he rendered for the Muslims community of India. The objective of the lesson is to make the students understand about his early life and the period of history that in which he was born, and how did that period affect his, influence his mind and his thinking. And in the second part of the lecture, we will discuss about his services, educational and political, and in the last we will conclude the lecture whether his movement succeeded or not. So let's start from the beginning now. Early life of Sir Syed Ahmad Khan is very interesting because he belonged to a very noble Syed family of Delhi. His grandfather, paternal grandfather and maternal grandfather, both were affiliated with the Mughal court, and they were courtier of the king, Mughal king Alam Shah II. And Sir Syed Ahmad Khan's father, Mir Muttaqi, had great influence upon the Mughal emperor, and he was considered his advisor. So when Sir Syed was born, then his family was affiliated with the Mughal emperor and his court, and they were keep on discussing the political situation of India, as well as social and moral decline of the Indian society was the topic at his home. But at that time, Sir Syed Ahmad Khan, in his early childhood, was under the influence of his mother, Azizun Nisa. She groomed him by imparting the knowledge of Quran, Islam, and then also she taught her Persian books of that time. So early education Sir Syed Ahmad Khan got from his mother, Azizun Nisa. And then his maternal grandfather, Khaja Fariduddin, the Birul Mulk, who was the courtier and advisor of the Mughal king, he also played a very important role in his education. Hayat-e-Javed, the famous book that is biography of Sir Syed Ahmad Khan, written by Maulana Altaf Hussain Hali, it describes that Sir Syed Ahmad Khan and his brother also went to Madrasa Mirza Mazhar Jane Jana, where Ghulam Ali Shah Sahib taught him, and they both were studied under him, and Ghulam Ali Shah used to call them his grandsons because he had great love for them, and he actually groomed them. So after getting early education, until his father remained alive, Sir Syed had a very customary life of the period as a Mughal rich Mughal emperor and rich family of the Mughal court and courtiers. But after the death of his father, Sir Syed Ahmad Khan had to seek the job, and in the beginning he started to work with his brother and he started to write in his journal, but later he decided to join East India Company. And at that time, in 1838 he joined East India Company. So in 1817 he was born, and in 1838 he had to join the East India Company. So he was a very young chap at that time when he joined the company. So like a young man of then, he decided to join a multinational company that had occupied the India, and they had the chances to spread its rule all across India. So like a intelligent young man, Sir Syed preferred to join East India Company rather than to serve in the declined Mughal court. So he started his career as a Sarishtadar, or as a clerk in the legal branch of the East India Company. And 1838 he joined it. Then he was transferred to different cities where he served. And during this time, Sir Syed reached on this conclusion that Muslims were lagging behind in education. So the services of Sir Syed Ahmad Khan can be categorized into two categories. The category one of his services is educational services. And these educational services are further divided into three different components. One is his works, books. Number two, the schools and societies he set up. And number three, the associations which he set up for the organization of the Muslims and to create awareness among them. And third part of his services is political services, because he remained in the court, in the imperial privy council of the viceroy, and he served there also as a member of the privy council after the retirement. Sir Syed Ahmad Khan was born in the period when the Mughal court had almost declined, and the Mughal family and the Mughal rule was about to end, and the British rule was spreading in India, and they were also increasing their influence in the political and social educational spheres of, and economically they had taken over almost all industrial sector of India. So then Sir Syed Ahmad Khan developed his beliefs. Now his beliefs can be taken as the objectives of his movement, which is known Aligarh movement. Number one, he believed that without uplift of education, Muslims could not compete the British and the Hindus. Number two, second objective of his Aligarh movement was to emphasize and provide and impart the modern scientific education to the Muslims. And number three, to create awareness about the rights of the Muslims through education. So to achieve these three objectives, now Sir Syed dedicated his life to gain his objectives. In 1854, he established a school, Gulshan School, in Ghazipur. In 1864, he established Victoria School in Muradabad. In the same year, in 1868, when he was transferred to Aligarh, then he established Aligarh Scientific Society on the pattern of Royal Asiatic Society of Great Britain, and he also started to publish a journal that is known as Aligarh Institute Gazette. We will discuss in detail about it later. So all these schools, two schools and this scientific society which he set up, he did not got any kind of help from the British or from other quarters of the society. He spent money from his own pocket, and these were primary schools where Persian, Quranic education, and then is mathematics and very basic subjects were taught. In 1869, the British government awarded scholarship to the son of Sir Syed Ahmad Khan for studies at Cambridge University. So Sir Syed accompanied him and he went to London, where he wanted to visit the universities of Great Britain, Oxford and Cambridge, as well as the school system, and he wanted to establish a residential English medium school in India for the Muslims and the Indians on the pattern of the British universities, because he believed that the universities and the educational system actually was catalyst for the rise of the British nation, and this education system and this educational institutes have made them the superpower and imperial power. And it's a fact. The nations develop their social, economic and cultural system when their universities impart If universities failed to impart, nations could not rise up. So he went there, and it is very interesting to know during his stay in Europe, in Great Britain, he read the book of William Muir, The Life of Muhammad, peace be upon him. And in this book he found certain objectionable points. So he decided to reply William Muir. He published a book during his stay in England, and that book is known as Khutbat-e-Ahmadiyya. In this book he replied with, arguments to William Muir, and he refuted his allegations that he leveled against Hazrat Muhammad, peace be upon him. He rejected it. He actually was very proud of this work, and he believed that it would become the source of his salvation and in the day hereafter. And he wrote a letter to Maulvi Chirag Hasan that I would be called in the day hereafter by Hazrat Muhammad, peace be upon him, that called Ahmad, who wrote this book. So Maulvi Chirag Hasan has mentioned it. And when he came back to India, then in 1875, he established Mohammedan Anglo-Oriental High School. He was retired from his service in 1872. He permanently decided to reside in Aligarh, and then he planned with his son, and he established this residential school, Aligarh. At Aligarh, named it Mohammedan means Islamic, Anglo means British, and Oriental means Eastern. So he mixed three different, philosophies and philosophies of three different civilizations into one school in his mission of statement. So while he was delivering the speech at the time of inauguration, he said that philosophy would be on his right hand, science would be on his left hand, and then Islam would be shining on the forehead of my students in this school. So he gave the message that we will also promote philosophy of East and West and science, and then we will impart Islamic education. So this school became a center of creating the Muslim leadership and a group of Muslim scholars which reflected the mindset based upon the philosophy and mission statements of the Aligarh Mohammedan Anglo-Oriental High School. It became so popular that within 2 years it converted into Mohammedan Anglo-Oriental College. And then Sir Syed Ahmad Khan was ambitious to see this college as the Aligarh Muslim University. He could not materialize his dream in his life, but after his death in 1920, the Nawab Nizam of Hyderabad and other rich people, they donated money and fulfilled the condition of the money, 2.5 million, and then British gave it a charter of the university. Now Aligarh Muslim University is one of the leading and research universities of India, and this was the first Muslim university ever established by Muslims in India after the advent of the British. The Hindus and the British established first Indian university, the University College of Calcutta, and then it followed then on. When Sir Syed established this school, it proved a forerunner for the Muslims. Then there started different movements in India, and we see that Sindh Madrasatul Islam school was established. Government Islamia College Peshawar was established. Anjuman Himayat Islam came into existence. They set up their schools and an orphan house in Lahore, and Islamia College Railway Lines Lahore is one of their main educational institution. In district Jang, Sayyid Ghulam Abbas Shah established a orphan house and Government Hussaini High School. So later government took over in Bhutto period. It was known as Hussaini High School. So there were so many movements that started in India, and the schools and colleges were established, and Muslim paid attention to learn the modern scientific knowledge, mathematics, history, geography, and particularly English language, because Sir Syed Ahmad Khan was of the opinion without learning English language they could not come to the status of a modern and they couldn't modern nation, and they could not reply in the same tone to the British, and they could not argue the British. So he paid attention. When he was establishing these schools, when government of British India took over the educational system of India, the Muslims were hesitant to send their children to the schools. They believed that British education system would make their kids aloof from their religion, aloof from their culture, and they would stray. So then Sir Syed Ahmad Khan got a verdict from the grandson of Hazrat Shah Waliullah that English and English medium education is not detrimental to Islam. That played very important role in convincing the Muslims to send their children to school. Now we come up to his books or works. Very first book that he published, it is known as Asarus Sanadid. This book was about the architecture of the buildings established by the Muslim in their periods in India. After this, in 1857, the war of, it published in 1842, that book described the history and the style of architecture. Then is another important book is Causes of the Revolt of India, that we discussed in our lecture 3 about War of Independence. Sir Syed was in Bijnor when 1857 War of Independence broke out. And many English, officers, their wives and kids, they got refuge at his home. He saved their lives. And since then, Hali said that when this war started, Sir Syed Ahmad Khan started to ponder about it, and he reached on some conclusions, and he produced them into the form of a booklet, and that was known as Causes Risala Asbab Baghawat Hind, and it was known as Revolt, Causes for the Revolt of India. He published these copies, and when he sent it to Lord Canning, and the Lord Canning accepted it as a friendly report on the War of Independence. In this book, he actually analyzed the causes, and he discussed that there were social causes, there were political causes, there were economic reasons, there were military reasons, and the changes that British brought, and that was resisted by the British. Changes were resisted by the Indians, so it was taken by British as a very friendly, and they sent its 500 copies to the British Parliament, and that was translated into English as well. So this book became the reason for analyzing the War of Independence that we discussed, that British called it mutiny, and Muslims and Hindus called it War of Independence or revolt. And Sir Syed actually made it clear to the British in this report that only Muslims and Hindus were not responsible. They were basically reactive to the British policies. After this book, then Muslims, when the British held Muslims responsible for the war, and the Hindus were Muslims were punished badly, but later gradually the Hindus became the trusted fellows and the trusted subject, and Muslims were declared disloyal. Then he produced another book. It was the Loyal Mohammedans of India. In this book, he tried to give the precedents that Muslims were equally loyal to the British court, and the effort of this effort was aiming at creating soft corner in the minds of the British rulers for the Muslims, because they were persecuting the Muslims badly. After this, Sir Syed Ahmad Khan, another book, he paid on the attention of in 1868, Aligarh Scientific Society was established, and that society started to publish a journal known as Aligarh Institute Gazette. Interesting point is that in Aligarh Scientific Society, Muslims, Hindus, Christians, British, Sikh, all the communities, scholars worked together, and Sir Syed Ahmad Khan and this society imported the latest research papers from Royal Asiatic Society, and they were translated into Urdu. So it was a bilingual journal, English and Urdu, and it created it created enlightenment amongst the Indians about the scientific and modern technology being invented and imparted to the Britishers. So it created ambition amongst the Muslims to learn about these one. And then he wrote a book, commentary on Bible. He could not completed it because of his demise. It was very important. And he wrote a book, commandments about the dining on the same table, kitab Okam Qiyam Tuam, Okam Tuam Qiyam. In this book, he tried to convince the Muslims that if they dine on the same table with the Christian, then that is not forbidden, that not forbid in Islam. So he also tried to bring the reconciliation between the rulers and tried to remove the hatred in the minds of the Muslims and the Britishers that developed after the War of Independence among them. He also he also wrote the Tafsir Quran also. The most important work that was Tahzeeb ul-Akhlaq. Tahzeeb ul-Akhlaq was a social reformer. In this social reformer, actually Sir Sayyid presented his thoughts, his philosophical beliefs about the miracles of the prophets. In this, he presented his rational interpretation about jinn and spirits and other different sort of myths. This could not be continued. This couldn't continue for a longer time because Sir Syed Ahmad Khan believed in naturalism, and he believed that the law of the universe cannot be changed, but the ulama of that time did not agree with him, so he had to stop the publication of Tahzeeb ul-Akhlaq. So in this way, Sir Sayyid educational services can be summed up into this, that he believed without uplift of education, Muslims could not reach to the level of the civilized nation. Therefore, he wrote books, he published journals, social reformers and scientific journal. He established, schools. And now last part of his educational is the establishment of the societies. He established the Society for the Development of Urdu because Sir Syed Ahmad Khan was one of the great lovers of Urdu. And in 1867, when the Commissioner of Benares, Shakespeare, he changed the language. Hindi made official language. He made Hindi as an official language, and Urdu was, declared nullified and not in use. So then Sir Syed met him, and he used the word nation for the Muslims. He said that this implementation of Hindi and expulsion of Urdu had divided the Hindus and Muslims into two nations. And since then he came to be known as the pioneer of two-nation theory. And this, the modern historians of Pakistan believed that he was the modern founder of two-nation theory in India because he first time used this word nations. But it is also a fact that Sir Syed Ahmad Khan was one of the great supporter of Hindu-Muslim unity. He considered India as a beautiful bride, and Hindu and Muslims are two beautiful eyes of this awesome bride. But later, after the 1867 Urdu-Hindu controversy, he was forced to change his mindset, and then he decided to think about Muslims only. Sir Syed Ahmad Khan established all Mohammedan Educational Conference in 1886 after 1 year of the foundation of All Indian National Congress. Allen Octavian Hume, a British officers and other Hindu scholars, they actually reached on this conclusion that if there would be a political party, it would work as a safety wall for the British rule and the expression of the Hindus, Muslims. All Indian means all the communities would join this National Indian Conference, Indian National Congress. It would be a party of the Indian nationals, and they would express their feelings, they would give their suggestion through this platform. So in 1885 this was founded, and it was inaugurated by the British Viceroy. Sir Syed Ahmad Khan then had certain reservations about the All Indian National Congress, and he advised Muslims not to participate in the politics. Because he believed if Muslims participated in the politics, then it would be harmful for them, because they could not understand the British system of democracy, and they would be more persecuted. So after 1 year he realized then Muslim also needed some kind of organization. So to avoid the British annoyance, he established All Indian Mohammedan Educational Conference, and this Mohammedan Educational Conference actually became the forerunner for the establishment of All India Muslim League in 1906 at the residence of Nawab Salimullah Khan. All India Muslim League was set up in the annual session of a Mohammedan Educational Conference. And Sir Syed, after his retirement, was nominated as the member of the Privy Council, where he presented the bill about the jobs of the Muslims and Hindus in the British Army. He also presented bill for the judiciary, of the inclusion of the Hindus and Muslims in the judiciary. So he played a very important role during his very short political life. The last part of this lesson is, what is the importance of Aligarh movement? The importance of Aligarh movement is evident from the services of Sir Syed Ahmad Khan. The consistent efforts that he made for the uplift of the Muslim society, it converted into a movement. And the Indian Muslim community was convinced that he is their leader in the time of crisis. He actually presented the moderate face of the Muslims to the British. Once he said that do not present Islam to the people means to the British. He said, present your face to the people so that they could understand Islam. So he believed in this. If Muslims are moderate, if Muslims are able to have the knowledge of modern science and technology that was ushering the era, and that at that time a new era of technology was ushering in the world. So he believed that without acquiring the modern knowledge, Muslims could not survive. So this was his very important point that made the Muslim Aligarh movement very important from educational point of view. As already I have mentioned that Muslim became convinced to establish more schools and colleges. So Aligarh movement became the forerunner for the establishment of the schools, colleges and universities, and they walked in the footstep of Sir Syed Ahmad Khan. Number two, second point of the significance of Aligarh movement is that Sir Syed Ahmad Khan created a group of scholars, intellectuals like Maulana Shibli Nomani and Sayyid Salman Nadvi and many others. Maulana Muhammad Ali Jawhar, Maulana Shaukat Ali, Liaquat Ali Khan, and Nawab Zada Zanfar Ali Khan, Sardar Abdul Rab Nishtar, and there is a long list of the leaders and scholars and students who played very important role during the Pakistan movement. Aligarh Mohammedan Anglo-Oriental College became so important for the Muslims. Quaid-e-Azam visited it and declared it the arsenal of the Muslim League, because the Muslim Student Federation was set up there, and the students of the Muslim League, of the Muslim, this Anglo MAO college and university, they spread in the parts of India, all parts of India, and they convinced the people for Pakistan cause. And then Muslim Aligarh Educational Conference also created awareness about the Muslim nationality and the Muslim cultural and social identification. This was Sir Syed Ahmad Khan, who tried to remove the fears in the minds of the British that Muslims are their enemies, and he tried to reconcile among them. So now we come up to the important questions from examination point of view. So one question, if the question is extended question of 14 marks for O level, or it's an extended question for CSS exam, then you need to take the review of Sir Syed Ahmad Khan from all aspects, from his life and impacts of the Mughal and the East India Company on the mind of the Sir Syed Ahmad Khan, how he developed his belief, what were his beliefs, how did he started his services for Muslims, schooling, establishment of schools, writing of books, publication of journals, establishment of societies, and then his meeting with the Viceroy and his propagation for the two-nation theory, as well as the support of the Urdu language. And in the last, you will conclude that Aligarh movement was the movement for the modern society of the Muslims, for the uplift of the education of the Muslims. Aligarh movement was for the uplift of the scientific mindset amongst the Muslims. And then you will also describe the philosophical beliefs of Sir Syed Ahmad Khan. He staunchly believed in naturalist philosophy. And in the last, I would like to clear that was Sir Syed an agent of the British or was not? The anti-elements of Sir Syed Ahmad Khan usually alleged him that he was the agent of the British, and he did all this because he set up Aligarh Educational Trust, and through Aligarh Educational Trust, the Simla deputation later went to the Viceroy Lord Minto, and Sir Syed polluted the minds of the Muslims, and so on. So there are so many allegations are leveled against him, but actually there are two opinions. One opinion already this, that he was agent of the British, but it's not so. Graham, G.F. Graham, in his book, he clarified him that he was not so. His book Hayat-e-Javed, about him, he said, I would take this book with me to my grave and it would be the asset of my life. Altaf Sen Hali had also written about this, that he was not a agent of the British, although he served in the East India Company, but it did not mean, or it doesn't mean that he had become their agent. If he was their agent, then he would have been rewarded with so many financial benefits. But Sir Syed died without leaving any assets. When he saved the lives of the Britishers in Bijnor, he was offered a Jagir Sambal, and Sambal was not a small part of a piece of land. It was a half of the province of Bengal almost, where the son of Jahangir Emperor, Mughal Emperor, was governor when British came there. But Sir Syed refused to get it, and he requested the British, I did not need Jagirs, I need only your support for the uplift of the Muslims in this society. So this must be remembered from Pakistani point of view. I also staunchly believe, as a indifferent researcher, that he did impart services for the Muslims, but It was purely for the uplift of the Muslim community and to create harmony in India, because he believed that India could be liberated with the unity of Hindu and Muslims. But he became disappointed also after 1867 due to Urdu-Hindi controversy. So when you will attempt your question in O-level, there may be given some source from this, and you have to solve for 4 marks. 7 marks question may be given what services did he render for the uplift of the Muslims, what services he rendered for the political life of the Muslims. It may be 7 marks questions. In the CSS examination, the students must pay, the candidates must pay attention on the answer according to the question. I would suggest you students and candidates of CSS examination that please read the questions, understand the demand of the examiner, and then start to write. Okay, bye. We will meet in the next lecture also with a new topic.